Well, g'day, curd nerds. G'day, curd nerds. Well, 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 g'day, curd nerds. Welcome to another episode of Ask the Cheeseman. This is episode 93, and this is where you can ask all of your home cheese making questions. We've got a few new members today, YouTube members. Big hello to Jordan Olson, and a big hello to Jedi Fat. And I see Jedi Fat's on the stream. Fantastic. Thank you very much for your membership. We have a new patron on Patreon this week, Paul Vorosek. Thank you, Paul, for your patronage as well. We will be having no live stream for the next 2 weeks. So due to family circumstances, I've got some important appointments on Wednesday morning about this time. So the next live stream will be on the 3rd of April. So I will schedule that via the YouTube live stream dashboard. So it'll be the 3rd of April will be the next live stream. The upcoming cheeses on videos will have Shropshire. Once that's been pierced, it hasn't been at the moment. I had a bit of trouble with it, but you'll see that in the video, and it's all good learning, which is good. I'm going to be making 2 types of cottage cheese. I'm going to try, for those who are regulars, it is my nemesis. So, yeah, we'll try 2 types. I'm going to try a soft curd cottage cheese and a firmer one, larger cubes. Anyway, we'll see how that goes. Also, the saffron infused cheese taste test. That'll be coming up soon, as well as the Cam Blue taste test. And as well as I've been filming some cheese a week challenge, which I've called Keep Calm and Eat Cheese. So that's my new series, weekly cheese taste testing for cheeses that I didn't make. So the ones very similar to the Cheese a Day challenge. Okay. And don't forget Super Chat down the bottom of the chat box. Not this one, the one you've got. You can throw some money my way during the chat if you like, to support the show. So, hellos. Let's say hellos. Okay, so first person, Ruth. Thank you, Ruth. And Ruth's a member as well. She was a bit early. As well as Bruce. Bruce is a patron. Thank you very much, guys. And Connie. G'day, Connie, if you're still watching. Lovely to see you. Who else we got? Porman. I think that's how you say it. It's got a question. I'll answer that in a minute. Amras, Patricia, Geordie, Kim, of course. Thank you, Kim, for being the moderator today. It's always lovely to have you here helping me out. Negro Park, Pero, Miriam, Jedi Fat, Jonathan, Chris, Craig. G'day, Craig. Dominique. G'day, Dominique. Tim. Who else we got there? Ashley, Cole, 24. I think that's a bit. Oh, Charles, Lark, Nelson. All right. Hello, everybody. We've got 34 people watching at the moment. I know it only says 22 up the top there, but it's a bit slow. Okay, first question of the day is, Portman says, hi Gavin, will a longer healing time, 15 minutes, keep my curds from breaking into too small of curds as I begin to lightly stir the curds using homogenized, normal pasteurization and calcium chloride with a good clean break? So let it heal a little bit longer and hopefully you won't have as much trouble as you're having by the sounds of it. Amras says, what's the nicest cheese I ever met? I don't think you meat cheese, you find cheese. Nicest. Nah, they're all good. I've never met a bad cheese. Well, except some processed ones, which we won't mention. Patricia says, oh, they've gone to daylight savings time in Canada as well as the US. So there were lots of people an hour early, I think, but that's okay. We go to daylight savings, so we go to winter time. When is it? End of April, I think, maybe. So that's a good thing. Okay, got a super chat from the original Perry. Hang on, let's. Why is the sign not going? What's going on there? There we go. There's a bit of action. Okay. Thank you, original Perry. Thank you very much for £10. That's massive in Australian dollars. Good evening. No question. Just letting you know I love the content and sub recently. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much, original Perry. All right, back to the questions. Don't know what's going on with the light. That should have gone off by itself. It's all connected to the internet. It's pretty cool. Where are we? Negro Park Pero says, hi Gavin, when making Parmesan cheese, the recipe says to rub it with olive oil. Is that just one time or is it continuously? About once a month is all you need, and that keeps a lot of the mold growth off, but also, would you believe, keeps the rind fairly dry so blue and white molds won't attack it. And in between that, if you start to see some mold growth, just rub it off. Don't use any brine or anything like that. But I do highly recommend, because we make such small wheels of cheese as home cheese makers, between 10 to 16 litres or even less, the cheese, like Parmesan, will dry out. So after about a month, once you've developed that rind and it's dried out a fair bit like it needs to as a Parmesan, then either vacuum pack it or wax the cheese. Otherwise, it'll dry out completely, be hard as a rock, and you'll be lucky to be even able to grate it. So, bit of a problem. Jedi Fat, I have a cheese icon now. Yes, you do, and that's one of the little perks of I'll start again. Of becoming a member or a patron. You get perks like early videos. I release them early to my patrons. Okay, Chris says, what kind of wax paper should I store cheese in? Is it the same as baking or parchment paper, or is it more like those beeswax wraps? In between. So the parchment paper is not waxed, neither is baking paper. There is proper wax paper, so paper that feels like it's waxy. We have some in the store, two sizes, and you can grab those. But they should, all good cheese suppliers should have them for storing your homemade cheese. You can use beeswax wraps. So the cloth wraps that they put beeswax on them, and they're using as sandwich bags and all that sort of cool stuff now instead of plastic, which is fantastic. That floats my boat. Yes, you can definitely use beeswax wraps to store your cheese in, because it'll lock in the moisture and let it breathe a little bit as well. Craig says, hi Gavin, hope Kim and you are well. Yes, we are, mate. Thank you very much. Dominique, who's also a member for 2 months even. Thank you, Dominique. Hi Gavin, can I add lipase to Jarlsberg? You can add lipase to any cheese you like, Dominique, but remember, it will change the flavour profile of the cheese quite dramatically. So it probably won't taste like Jarlsberg anymore. Remembering that the Propionic Shamani is the ripening culture for that style of cheese that gives it its nutty flavour, and it gives it its the CO2 development, the eye development. By adding lipase, you will have some issues with trying to maintain that flavour. But if that's what you're trying to do, trying to make a piquant version of Jarlsberg, then go for it. It'll be good. Miriam says, if I leave my Gouda to mature for more than 6 weeks, let's say 3 months, for example, would it be the bad side be? What would the bad side be? Will there be an effect on the cheese besides it having a more stronger flavour? No, it'll have a stronger flavour. That's it. There won't be anything bad about it, especially, if you've waxed or vacuum packed it, then fantastic, no problems at all. You shouldn't leave it to grow a natural rind because it will grow funky molds over it. So, yeah, it'll get stronger in flavour. After about the 10-month mark, it'll probably develop tyrosine or calcium lactate crystals, which are crunchy and they're very nice and they're lovely and they're actually desired in cheese. It's called Old Amsterdam, which is an aged Gouda. Ashley, good evening. Cole says, good evening from Maine. I made some of your cloth and lard wrapped cheddar, and after a few weeks, I have every colour on the rainbow in mould growing on it. Should I chuck it or can it be saved? If it's cloth wrapped, it's going to have funky molds on it. That's just the way it is. Go on YouTube, have a look at some cheddar makers from Somerset, in the Somerset region of the UK. You will see that it looks disgusting, the outside of a cloth wrapped cheddar. Eventually, that mold dries out. It doesn't actually go into the cheese. That's what the cloth's there to protect it, and the lard. Yeah, it looks fine underneath. It actually gives the cheddar different flavour, so a good flavour. So no, don't throw it away, whatever you do. Vorman. How about I just say Vorman? That sounds good. Thanks, Gavin. When we clean our hands with vinegar, is there a concern that we're killing off beneficial surface bacteria while we're handling and tending to our aging cheese? No concern whatsoever. That you want to kill off any other bacteria, yeast, or mold that are lingering on your hand. And preferably, if you're actually, manipulating curd, it's probably best to take off any rings off your finger because molds do like to hide. That's why it smells sometimes underneath your ring finger. So it's probably best to get rid of that and kills any yeast and all that sort of stuff. Beneficial surface bacteria, there aren't many that haven't already been in the milk. And if you're using pasteurized milk, there's none anyway. The bacteria have been killed. And any bacteria you add to it, they're the ones that are going to breed and multiply in that really rich native environment that don't have any competitors. Yeah. Tim says, when making cheddar, I used virgin olive oil. How often do I need to oil it, please? You'll find that your cheddar will dry out as well, Tim. So, very similar to the Parmesan question I had before, that if you, I would oil it probably only 2 months in a row and then seal it using wax or vacuum pack. Probably too late to cloth bandage it now because the cloth won't stick to the cheese properly. Bruce says, go cottage cheese. Yes, definitely. Well, that's what I'm planning to do anyway. We'll see how we go. Geordie says, if I open my Jarlsberg, can I save half of it by re-waxing the half? Yes, you can, definitely. So waxing is a good alternative. If you don't have vacuum packing or anything like that, then waxing is a good alternative to storing your cheese once it's mature. So once it's mature and you're happy with the flavour and you don't really want it to change too much and you don't want it to get infected, then wax the other half or quarter or whatever you've got, and then put it into the kitchen fridge. And it will last a long time. It'll slowly age, very slowly, but not too much. Lark says, greetings from Trinidad in Jamaica. G'day, Lark. I'm going to start my cheese making journey with your sherbet. Sherbet is lovely. If you've got goat's milk, make the sherbet. It'll blow your mind. It's great on everything. Couldn't use enough of it. It was so good. Nelson, hello. Hello, Nelson. And Guygen, I think that's how you say it. G'day, Gavin. Hello, Guygen. Packhorse Triumph. G'day. Jonathan has a question. When new cheese challenge after wrapping it up in cheese challenge. Huh? Sorry, mate. When new cheese yes, the new cheese challenge is happening. I have the first episode scheduled for Monday morning my time is going to be the normal release. I'm hoping to do homemade cheese stuff. I'm trying to release that on Fridays. Fingers crossed. If we get enough time to edit during the week is the problem. So live stream Wednesday, Friday is home cheese stuff, and then Mondays or Sundays, depends on your time zone. Mondays for me will be the keep calm and eat cheese. So that'll be the regular 3 video a week schedule from now on, instead of one every single day. But yeah, it'll be good fun. So that hopefully that answers your question, Jonathan. Lark says, how long is too long to leave your milk without refrigeration when making cheese? Ooh, if you're using raw milk, 24 hours is too long. If you're using pasteurized milk, 24 hours is too long. It goes sour, goes off. Other bacteria get into it without refrigeration, unfortunately. And the funny thing about raw milk, if you have it refrigerated for more than 3 days, it also starts to break down and peptides within the milk start to make it bitter. So use your raw milk quickly, within 24 hours from getting it from the animal. Patricia says, am I out of focus a bit? I'm looking at my YouTube stream. It looks okay to me. I think, yeah, it looks pretty good. Maybe it was just the stream, because I am streaming at pretty high frame rate. Hope that's okay, Patricia. Axe and Facts says, hi there, just grabbed my coffee, pulled in my favourite armchair, let's go. Yes, indeed. Catherine says, just got my cheese press. Well done, Catherine. Hope it works well for you. Paris Finn says, what's the weather like? Well, it's overcast, cooler. Don't know what the temperature is. What's the temperature today?
The high temperature for today will be 18 degrees and the low will be 8 degrees.
There you go. It's going to be 18 degrees today, Celsius. So it's starting to get cooler now that we're in autumn. Pretty cool. All right. That answered your question, Paris Finn, hopefully. What else we got? Patricia says, took my Jarlsberg out of wax to allow eye development. It is sitting in a box at 17 to 18 Celsius, relative humidity between 87 and 90. Any tips, tricks, or thoughts? See, normally I leave my Jarlsberg in the wax so it doesn't get infected. What you may need to do, Patricia, is if you see any mold growth on the Jarlsberg, then you'll have to wipe it off, of course, using a simple brine solution or dry rub it. So that may be an issue. It's the only thing I can really think of. As long as it's at the right temperature, it should grow its eyes. And you're right, the higher temperature is necessary because the Propionic Shamani, its optimum CO2 development is at 21, 22 degrees Celsius. But we want to slow that down a bit. We don't want it to go crazy and explode your cheese. Like you can imagine, it'll be like a horror story, exploding cheeses. Okay. Joanne Pella says, I live in a really humid and hot climate in South Louisiana. What advice do you give to those who live where mold grows in wintertime? Mold grows at any time. What advice do I give? Make mold ripened cheeses. That sounds like a good plan. So you can make mold ripened cheeses to your heart's content, and the mold will always grow. How cool will that be? Let me think. Depends on the humidity rate, but when you're air drying cheeses, then you may have a bit of an issue with mold growth at about day 2. But as soon as it's touch dry, just clean it off, wax it, and vacuum pack it. Put it into your cheese cave, which is a controlled temperature environment, so you won't have any issue. Doesn't matter what your climate is. Also, the warmer the climate, the actual better the cheese knits together in the press. A lot of people have issues with curds compressing and forming a solid rind. That's not so much of an issue when the weather's warmer. So, however, you may get fat seepage as well once the temperature gets too high, like over 30 degrees Celsius. Okay. Bill says, I made a little blue cheese, but it's actually quite badly infected with Penicillium candidum. I scraped off the right white mold. Is there anything else I need to do? That's about it, Bill. You can't do much more because if you say wash it with a simple brine solution or any vinegar or anything like that, then you're going to kill off the blue mold as well. Well, what you could do is let the Penicillium candidum grow all over the cheese, and you'll have yourself a canned blue. That'd be pretty cool. So there's a couple options. Yeah, scraping off the mold's about all you can do. Just keeping that surface clear for the blue to grow back. Can't really do too much more. I've skipped so far ahead. No, I haven't. Travis says, Mr. Weber, thank you for your show. I've had a lot of enjoyment watching your show. Started watching this month. Thanks, Travis. Don't forget all the other videos too, mate. Kevin says, is there a difference between aroma bee and flora danica? Well, let's consult the Book of Armaments. Let's see if I can find this file that I usually lose. 1 second. Just play amongst yourselves there for a second. And I will find the file that I refer to all the time. It's not there. And it is... It's got to be here somewhere. Hang on, I got hundreds of bloody files. Files on cheese. Anyway, we'll move to the next question, but I have the answer for that one. Felicia says, I forgot to take my cheese from saturated brine. I'm 5 hours late. What shall I do? Not much. It'll just be a bit saltier. Yeah, you may get some stifled so culture development. So that may be an issue. I will find what I'm looking for. Right. The question was, is aroma bee the same? And let me just go to the second strain. Here we are. So this is a cultures guide that I found online, which is pretty good. I think it's an extract from Mary Carlin's book, Artisan Cheesemaking at Home. So we're looking for aroma, what do we say? Aroma bee. Aroma bee by Abiasa is... contains LLLC LDLM, and guess what? Flora danica contains the same thing. Let's have a look at its properties. So moderate acidifier, some gas, high diacetyl production. Diacetyl is what gives it that buttery consistency. Let's have a look. And they look both the same. So they're the same sort of culture. Now, the ratios may be different of the different cultures. And LL, all these things mean something down the bottom. Where is it? Where's the menu? Here we are. LL, Lactobacillus lactis, LC, Cremoris. Anyway, a great little document. It's available for free online somewhere. Go to Mary Carlin's site. You'll find it. Anyway, so that's that. So yes, the answer is that they're the same. There we go. Back again. All right. Paris Finn says, what about making unsalted cheese? The only unsalted cheese you can make is fresh cheese. You make semi-hard or hard cheeses without salt. Salt has a very important role to play in cheese making. Not only does it preserve the cheese, it adds flavor. It also inhibits rapid starter culture development. It also limits enzyme development as well. So you need to make sure that you add salt to your cheese, or it will turn up bitter, sour, rancid, all of those three things, and many, many more. So add your salt to the cheese. Ms. Saving Grace, hi Gavin. I have a Tipo Manchego going on 4 weeks. If I want to cut off a piece, should I continue to air dry the remainder or just vacuum pack? Thank you. You're going to break the rind, are you? It's not recommended. So a lot of people love. Don't know why they do this. Sorry, and it's one of my pet peeves. They make a cheese, they press it, then they cut it in half. The rind is the bit that protects the cheese as it's maturing. Okay, that's what it's for. Don't break the rind. Whatever you do, you're going to get infections, all that sort of stuff. If you want to try cheese, get a cheese trier. It's a little tool, stainless steel thing, the handle on it. You twist it in, get a core sample, come out, try it, plug it back up again. And that way your cheese won't get infected with funky molds. So your only other thing, if you're going to cut a bit off, you're going to stifle some of the development that may happen within the cheese. But if you absolutely want to, then just cut off a bit and vacuum pack it as you suggested. Sad Jester says, how can you tell if cheese has went bad? Funny about that, I was doing a taste test. A couple of days ago, I was filming one, and I had this cheese that was a ash brie from Flinders Estate, and it had gone 2 days past its best before date. And best before dates are, they're a loose guideline, right? Cheese ripens and it keeps ripening. Anyway, this cheese, I opened it up. Not only did the white mold and ash stick to the wrapper, that was the first indication that something was wrong somewhere. Normally the white mold stays on the cheese, even when you take the wrapper off. It had a really bad ammonia smell, like one of the worst ones I've ever smelled, even worse than the ones I make. And that's saying something. And it had all this pink and orange mold that did not look like Brevibacterium linens. It didn't smell like Brevibacterium linens, which smells like old socks. This stunk really like it was rotten. So either I got a dud cheese that had been sitting in the sun for like 5 days or something, but I chose not to eat it. I tried a little bit of the white paste and then thought against it. I thought, no. So normally the nose knows. If you think a cheese smells uncheese-like, other than the varieties that smell, right? Like the normal ones, like the strong blues and the red mold ripened cheeses, then if your cheese smells off, then it probably is, and don't eat it. So your nose knows. All right. Whew. Ruth says, I'll be gone when you are, Gavin and Kim. I'm going to Cuba, where I had the best cheese and butter I've ever tasted. I think because they feed those animals so well. Yes, they do. Well, best of luck, Ruth. I hope you enjoy your time over in Cuba. Hoping to get to a cheese factory. Oh, well done. Yeah, that'll be cool. Jordan, g'day, Jordan. Thank you for your membership, mate. I called you out at the start of the show, actually. I'm trying to catch up on these live chats. I'm on number 39, and it's great watching, answering a lot of questions. Thank you. No problems, Jordan. Appreciate your membership, mate. Kim says that sounds fantastic for Ruth. Paris Finn, hey, Kim. Hey, Kim, have a good day, sis. Yeah, cool. Salvador says, could I say La Lola de los Perritos? I think that's what does that actually mean before I say it? It could mean something terrible. Let me just go to the translate, man. I probably said something terrible already. Says the Lola of the ports is what it means. Translated from Spanish, is that right? Maybe Spanish. Let's try Portuguese. If I can Fine Portuguese. Means the same thing. The Lola of the ports. Okay, cool. Ruth, maybe I'll learn something. Yes, maybe you will. Jordan, on your Bloomy Goat Blue, could you have used a third mold instead of going back and filling over the length of time it took? Yes, I could have. However, the cheeses would have been a lot smaller. Goat's milk curds are very fine, and as you saw, I think in the video, a bit ran out the bottom. If you used another mold, then there would have been an issue with the cheese being a lot flatter. So that could have been an issue. So yeah, the answer is yes, but you'll have smaller cheeses, and I like the quite tall ones, which were good. I actually learned a new word the other day. This is totally unrelated. Well, it's not. It is related to cheese making. The word truckle. I don't know if anybody's heard of it. A truckle is a cheese that is taller than it is wider. There you go. So there you learn a piece of news every day. And you'll see what that relates to very soon on the very first Keep Calm and Make Cheese video. Okay, enough said. Jonathan says, but I really enjoy your cheese challenge. Really love cheese. So do I. That's why I'm keeping doing it every week. Nelson says, Gavin, have you had any experience with thistle rennet? There's a traditional Portuguese cheese my family used to make, and I'm trying to revitalise that. Thanks. I do know a cheesemaker, an artisan cheesemaker named Ian Trower in Canada. He lives in Calgary or Alberta. Alberta, is that the province? I can't remember. Yeah, Calgary, Alberta. Sounds right. And he exclusively uses cardoon thistle rennet and it's in a powdered form, I think. So he uses cardoon thistle rennet and makes all his cheeses using that, and has a lot of luck and not luck, a lot of expertise in that field. So he actually has a website called Much Ado About Cheese. So go and search for that, and you may learn something about cardoon thistle rennet over there. Paris Finn says, Gavin, I know you hate that stinky cheese from the cheese a day wrap-up list. What stinky cheese do you recommend me buying that you enjoy? If you're talking about washed rind cheeses, try any other artisan cheese other than the generic brand supermarket one. There's a, I don't know, it depends on what country you're in. Paris. In Australia, there's there's a Flinders Estate wash rind cheese now too, which I think is pretty good. I've read some reviews about it. Yeah, so that's, or go to any of the city markets. So like here in Melbourne, you go to Vic Markets, and they have some excellent washed rind cheeses. I've tried some from Vic Markets, and they are amazing, really amazing, fantastic flavour, oozy, smelly, but the flavour is just out of this world. So try and find some of your city markets, or go to a cheesemonger. There are a few around. Well, there's a few around Melbourne now, not many, but a few like Milk the Cow, where you get quite a unique experience. But I know there's cheesemongers all the way in the most capital cities anyway, so you shouldn't have too much trouble. But yeah, go and ask them for a recommendation, and because there's so many of them, if you can find the right place to buy them. Lark says, thank you. No problems, Lark. Kevin says, made your quick mozzarella. First time was excellent and stretchy. The second time, it did not stretch but came out quite crumbly. Do you think I heated it too high or what? Same recipe both times. Sounds like an acidity issue, actually, or a rennet issue. So pretty hard to troubleshoot quick mozzarella unless I'm actually watching what you're doing. And that's how I do it with most of my students. So the first time you probably had the acidity spot on and the rennet spot on. Too much rennet will make your curds crumbly. Too much acid, it won't stretch. So there's some things to look at there. Rob Highlander says, do you find buying local farm milk versus industrial milk makes a difference? Also raw versus pasteurised. So 2 questions there. Do I find, yes, I buy local milk, or I get it donated actually by Inglenook Dairies. They donate milk to me for a shout out, which is pretty cool because it costs about $40 for 10 litres. It's not cheap. And they do the lowest temperature pasteurization they can legally get away with. So at least some of the beneficial bacteria are still in the milk, which is good. But it kills all the bad ones, which is really good. And they test it and all that sort of stuff. Industrial standardized milk is probably not the best to use, but at a pinch, pasteurized homogenized will make cheese. Okay, it won't be the best cheese, but it will be cheese. I used to use pasteurized homogenized all the time until I discovered a regular supplier of unhomogenized milk. So raw versus unpasteurized, it's the same thing. Raw and unpasteurized is the same thing. If you mean raw versus pasteurized, raw milk every time. If you can get a reliable, clean source of milk and use the milk within 24 hours of milking, then it's fine. And by law, in Australia anyway, and I think in Canada as well, maybe the US, you have to mature the cheese for 60 days before it's safe to eat or deemed safe to eat. Look, I know people make raw milk cheese a lot less, even fresh cheese, and they have no issues. But it's the law, so that's kind of what we have to stick to. Pasteurized milk, fine. I use pasteurized unhomogenized to great success for most of my cheeses. Okay, I've skipped ahead a lot here. Where are we? No, I'm not. Stagger says, what's my least favourite cheese that I've made? The worst tasting one would be St. Marcelin. St. Marcelin was great when it was about 3 weeks, but then at 4 weeks, it was terrible. In fact, you can go and see, I think they've done a taste test video on St. Marcelin, so go and check that out. Ruth said, will Bee Linen's culture survive the trip from Australia to San Francisco? I believe it will, Ruth. We do ship all over the world and nobody's had any issues so far. Well, none of them they've told me. We pack it up in bubble wrap, and express is usually the best way to go to get them to you quickly. The weather's cooling off now, so I won't have too many issues in transit. They usually last about 14 days at 30 degrees Celsius. So that's the gauge that the manufacturers factor in when they make it. Chris says, have I ever tried to make an Irish porter cheese? An unusual vintage Irish cheddar marbled with porter, which is an Irish stout like Guinness. I haven't, but I want to. Irish porter cheese. Good suggestion. It'd be cool if I could make the beer myself. I actually do make beer. Haven't for about 4 years now. But I'm sure I could figure it out again. Matt says, what type of milk is best for mozzarella? Well, traditionally, buffalo milk is the best for mozzarella. That's the traditional way to make it, is with buffalo milk. So if you get your hands on some buffalo milk, then go for it. But a poor man's substitute is cow's milk with lipase added to get the same sort of flavour. But I'll tell you what, during the Cheese a Day challenge, that Shore River buffalo mozzarella blew my mind. The flavour was like none I'd ever had. Creamy, it was just rich. Oh, it was just absolutely beautiful. So if you get your hands on some real buffalo milk, then give it a go. Ruth says, do I get Cowgirl Creamery cheese in Australia? They make a cheese I'd like you to try so you can teach me to make it. No, I don't think they export, Ruth. And I know they're in the Bay Area. So no, I don't think they export. I've never seen anything, certainly in the places that I go to get cheese. Maybe one of the cheesemongers in Melbourne may have some, But shoot me the name of it via email, and I can have a look. See if I can find it. Even online, they might be able to ship it. Don't know. Who knows? Accent Fact says I was out of non-iodized salt, I would expect, and made some camembert with regular salt. It turned out perfect to taste and in appearance. How about a video comparing a piece with each kind of salt, and each kind of salt equal otherwise? Yeah, Accent Facts, you're absolutely right. When you surface salt a cheese, especially a cheese like camembert, you won't have too many issues with iodine. And the reason is because those cheeses are mainly ripened with the Penicillium candidum. So of course, the starter culture will break down and it'll have some effect on the flavour, but the biggest effect on the flavour is going to be the Penicillium candidum. Now that doesn't get killed off. It's a mould. Doesn't get killed off by the iodine, unlike starter cultures, lactic bacteria, which just does get killed off by iodine. So it's no issue using that for camemberts. However, if you're making semi-hard or hard cheeses, there will be an effect. It will kill off the lactic bacteria from doing any further develop after salting, and therefore the enzymes won't break down and make the lipids and peptides. No, not peptides. That's bitterness. The proteolysis, which breaks down the proteins and the fats. So there will be some issue there. But with camembert, no problems. You shouldn't have too many problems at all. And no, I'm not a salt video. Maybe, I don't know. I've only got 2 types of salt that I use, fine and coarse, and use them for specific reasons. Kind of stick to the fine grade salt and don't have too many issues with it. Nelson says, just wondering if there are any special considerations or oddities when using thistle rennet that I may know of. No, unfortunately not. I don't. I've never used it. So I don't have any experience with it, unfortunately. But like I said, Ian Trower does. So track him down and see if you can find him. Like I said, his website is Much Ado About Cheese. Let me see if I can find it. Does it still exist? Oh, it does. Here we go. Second screen. So there it is. There's his website. And as I said, Ian Trower. And go and check that out. Recommendation for a really good read about his journey on cheese making. So he started from home cheesemaker like me. Oh, look, he even mentions me by name. Gavin Weber. Oh, thank you. No, I didn't realise that. That's pretty cool. And he bought a farm and or a creamery, and now makes cheese, which is really cool. So that's Ian's website. Go and check it out. Much to do about cheese, and you should learn about thistle rennet and stuff like that as well. Kevin Probnick. My raclette is getting mould, so I vac packed in it, and after a couple of months in the vac pack bag, the cheese has flattened and seems to have turned liquid. That's no good at all. Raclette shouldn't do that. Mine didn't. Not sure what's going on there, Kevin. I couldn't really diagnose it from that explanation. Don't know. Sorry, can't diagnose that. It's like going to a doctor's surgery and the doctor doesn't know what's going on. You get that sometimes, I suppose. Ezekiel says, hello, Gavin. Do you have any videos on making cheese with raw cow's milk? I have access to real cow's milk where I live. Don't need any videos on raw cow's milk. All the recipes that I make, you can use raw cow's milk. Okay? Just use a little bit less rennet and probably a little bit less starter culture as well. And I'm talking 5% max, less. So you can make all those cheeses. No big deal. Don't need any special videos for raw milk cheese. You don't need the calcium chloride, by the way. So when you're using raw milk, that's less than 24 hours old, no calcium chloride required. It'll set a curd, like that. Fantastic. So there you go, Ezekiel. No problems at all. Andrew, I want to add horseradish or garlic to me cheese. Where in the process to I add the said ingredients? Okay. Yes. You add it during milling, so depends on the cheese, but most of the time, just before you put it into the press, so it's all milled into little bits, then you can add it to the curds and then give it a good stir through. So check out the Cotswold video that I just made, and you'll see where in the process that I actually added it in. So go and have a look at the Cotswold video and check that out. Paul says, I wanted to say how great your 165 cheese basket is. Very functional. I can't imagine making cheese with anything else for most cheeses. Same with your compression spring for my press. Big thanks. No drama, Paul. Yeah, they are great products. Those 165 baskets are exclusively made here in Australia, of all things. We have one supplier, and I hope he never runs out. So, yeah, molded in Australia and designed in Australia. So pretty cool basket. And the springs, I tell you what, they were a godsend when I found them. So yeah, I hope that supply never runs out either. Okay. Glad they work for you. They work for me, Paul. Ryan says, I wish I could take more time to watch. Love your videos. Keep up the awesome content. Thanks, Ryan. Patricia says, recently watched part of a YouTube video featuring Sister Noella Marcelino talking about monastic cheese caves in Europe. I was amazed how cave-specific the different strains of Geotrichum and Candidum were. Yeah, I'd seen the same video. It was like a lecture, and she talks about, I think she calls it Geotrichum or something like that. It really stumped me. Geotrichum, whatever. But yeah, she's a fascinator, and I think she did a master's or a doctorate in microbiology, specifically around cheese making, starter cultures, and molds, is her expertise. And if you can see a video of it, it's pretty cool. So let me just see if I can find it on the YouTubes. I know I'm going to the second screen a lot today, but people are asking questions that I don't know. There he is. There he is. There she is. Let's see if it comes up. Okay, let's go to the second screen. And just for a second. That's not it.
And look at her mold.
Yes, it is. That is her presentation.
So ceviche when Virgil.
Anyway, that's not her. That's not Sister Noella.
And some of the.
Where is she?
I think I've been bragging.
In here at this
there
point
she
are
is.
lactic acid.
So that's Sister Noella.
And they're consuming the lactose.
She does some amazing cheese talk.
Acid.
There's some great videos. Just search for her name, Sister Noella
What happens
Marcelino.
in the cave is a transformation.
She
this
talks
is
about
day
cheese
4
ripening
of
and
the
all that
ripening
sort of
process.
stuff. Very interesting. I've seen it myself and have enjoyed it immensely. So yeah, great videos. Okay, moving right along. Patricia says, have I watched it? Yes, just I have, and I saw it then. Saving Grace, thank you. I won't break the rind. No drama. Well done. Roby says, substitute mesophilic and thermophilic cultures and how much? Substitute to. Okay. So a substitute to mesophilic starter cultures is buttermilk. So cultured buttermilk. You can add, I think it's 250 milliliters, which is 1 cup, to 10 liters of milk, and that'll give you a thermophilic starter culture. A mesophilic starter culture. It's very similar to Floridanica, so you will get some gas development as well. Thermophilic starter culture, you can use live cultured yogurt, and I think you add about 170, and it's about the same. So 250 mils to 10 liters of milk, But it will give it a slight yogurty taste. Remember that in yogurt cultures, there's some other strains of culture that really highly acidify the milk, that giving it a tangy yogurt culture flavour, of course. If you can find a mild yogurt culture, and we sell a mild yogurt culture, then you can use that as a thermophilic substitute. However, it's a powdered DVI thing. You might as well just go and buy the starter culture. But yeah, if you've only got access to yogurt, then you can use it as a thermophilic. Another substitute is kefir grains. If you can get your hands on some kefir grains, and to see the method on how to use those, go and get the book, The Natural Cheese Making Way by David Asher. I think that's the title of the book. So look up book by David Asher, and you'll be able to make all those cheeses without any cultures. He does all sorts of cool stuff. Mauro, Poro, Toro, I think that's how you say it. I love your channel a lot. Thank you. Or like. One question, I don't see you use a pH meter when using cheese. Yeah, I don't. I don't use a pH meter unless I'm making pasta filata cheeses. So that answered your question. Why? Oh, why don't I answer? Why don't I use? Because I use the timings instead. I know that the milk pH I'm using standardized milk, so it's no big deal. It's all going to be the same. If I was using raw milk, yeah, I probably would use a pH meter indeed and record everything, because during the season of lactation for each animal, whether it be cow, goat, or sheep, or camel, or what have you, the pH changes. So your starting pH will be different. So you will probably end up with a different cheese than you made the last time. So I would then use a pH meter, but using standardized milk, as long as you stick to the timings and the same amounts, you don't usually have too many troubles at all. Okay. Lark says, is there a simple testing kit I can use to detect types of mold and bacteria? I want to know what's good and what's not. Yeah, if you go to an industrial dairy supplier, then they have test kits for milk. All dairies are required to use them here in Australia anyway. But that's where you would go. They sell them online. Home cheese making shops like ours don't sell stuff like that. So don't need to. Kevin says, Ian Trow lives and has a factory in Smoky Lake, Alberta. Yep, we do. And we saw that. I'm way behind, so sorry about that. Craig says, I wonder, do you have a recipe for a Roaring 40 style cheese? Roaring 40s is a style made by King Island Dairy. It's a blue cheese, a fairly strong blue cheese. Craig, it's made in the same style as, I think it's Stilton. Maybe a little, yeah, no, it is. It's a fairly dry blue cheese. Yeah, it's made in the same style as Stilton, so go and check out the Stilton recipe. Nelson says, awesome, thank you for the thistle round information. You're a wealth of curdy knowledge. That's okay. No problems, Nelson. Ex-PFC Wintergreen, I think cheesemonger sounds like a dream job. Me too. Be pretty cool, wouldn't it? Get to smell and taste cheeses all day. If you like cheeses as much as we do, of course. Mark says, have you ever tried stinking Bishop cheese? I have, and it does stink a bit. It's a nice blue cheese, very strong. Doesn't transport well to Australia. Better if you have it in the UK, and I have had it in the UK when I visited there quite a while ago. But yeah, it doesn't really transport very well. It over ripens, so it's extra stinky Bishop when we get here, when it gets to here to Australia. Carol says, hi Gavin, can I use raw milk only to make any hard cheese, please? You can use raw milk to make any cheese. It's your choice. Yes, you can. As I mentioned before, Carol. Craig says, Inglewood Dairy has the best unhomogenised milk I've used in 6 years of cheese making by a country mile. Indeed it is, Craig. If anybody's local in Melbourne, get your hands on it. Or Ballarat, or Bendigo, or wherever in Victoria. Mr. Wintergreen says, Gavin, what flavour, textures, qualities make a cheese terrible to you? a taste that is unpalatable. Anything else is fair game as far as I'm concerned. So as long as the taste is palatable, then it is a terrible cheese for me. If it doesn't taste like cheese and pretends to be cheese, that is terrible for me as well. So many processed cheeses I think are disgusting because they have far too many additives. They don't have enough cheese, and they're not made in the traditional manner. I'm a bit of a purist as far as making cheese goes. However, I have found a recipe on how to make American cheese. So those people who have been asking me, all those heathens, have been asking me to make American cheese, which is a processed cheese. I have found a recipe, and the secret ingredient is sodium citrate. Sodium citrate is an emulsifier which allows you to melt down and add to normal cheese offcuts and melt into a sticky paste that then kind of solidifies into what we would say would be in Australia here craft singles, that sort of texture of cheese. So I have found a recipe, and I'm thinking of doing it. I don't know. Should I? Maybe. Okay, we've got 4 minutes left, so I won't be able to get to any more questions except Benjamin's question. Have we made red Leicester? Yes, I have. Go and check out. There is a Leicester recipe. You just add more annatto, and that becomes red Leicester. Johan, hello from Cape Town. And I've missed heaps of conversation here. Kim says, don't you have some sisters who enjoy watching my video? Yes, I do, Kim. There are sister... Oh, I can't remember her name now. So sorry, I've forgotten it. They're over in New York, in the state of New York. They've got a nunnery there. Nunnery, is that what they're called? Yeah, and she watches my cheese making videos. We've had correspondence a long, long time ago. But yes, Kim, that's correct. Anyway, we'll get to the end of the video very soon. Michael Pollan, yes, he does great food. Writes some fantastic books as well. Jeffrey says, my jalapeno cheddar is still looking good. What's mine doing? It looks good too. I recently turned it on Sunday, and it looks fabulous. So far, so good. Might be getting pretty close to the taste test for that one too. I'll have to go and check the date on the package that I put. Acts and Facts, can you tell us a little bit about common causes of the off tastes, the bitter ones? The bitter ones are made, they have peptides in them, and if you shoot me an email, I can do a better description for you on why cheese tastes bitter. Cool. There we go. So Kim normally does the wrap-ups at the moment. For anybody... no, I couldn't get to everybody. I'm sorry this week. If you had done a super chat, I probably would have got to you. Sister Mary Catherine, how did you know that? Very good. Jordan must have recently watched one of the videos where I mentioned her or something. Yeah, cool. Waxing the Cotswolds. It sung to the tune of Waltzing Matilda, I hope there. So if you, yeah, thanks, Kim. That's a good one. Yeah, if you want to visit our shop, don't hesitate to pick up any kits, ingredients, or supplies over at littlegreenworkshops.com.au. Kim's just put the link to the shop in there. We ship all over the world, and they get there safely, and you'll be able to use all of the cultures. Don't be afraid about that. It's fine. You can support us either via YouTube memberships. There's a join button below there somewhere. And thank you very much to Jordan and Jedi Fat for becoming YouTube members this month. And there's lots of YouTube members. You can see them on the chat. Their name's highlighted in green usually on the YouTube chat. And they've got a picture of cheese, depending on how old they are as a member. And you'll see different coloured cheeses. Very cool. You can buy merch over at Teespring. You probably see all the merch down below under the video, and all the videos, they're all there. or go to teespring.com/store/cheeseman-tv. Thank you, Ruth, very much. And thank you to everybody who watches. Of course, don't forget, 3rd of April, we will be back again for our live stream. Hoping to see you there. I will schedule it, so if you see it on the dashboard, you'll see what date and time. Daylight savings, I don't remember if it's the start of March or end of March. Kim says there's a good question from somebody. Daniel. Okay, Daniel. Kim wants me to answer one question. Hi, Gavin. I had a debate on a page about a natto. Some says it's just colour. Then why not use food colouring? I said it's for flavour as well. What is it actually for? It's for colour. That's it. There is no flavouring. And don't use food colouring, whatever you do, because it bleeds through everything, bleeds onto your fingers. It goes through you like a dose of salts, comes out a different colour at the other end. Terrible thing. A natto is inert. And the good thing about it is the more you add, the brighter the colour, darker the colour becomes. So, yeah, it is for colour. There's no flavouring whatsoever, unfortunately. But good question, Daniel. Thank you very much. And there we go. We're at the end now. Thank you very much, everybody. Without your questions, it wouldn't be a show. So thank you so much for turning up. I really appreciate it. That's all from me and Kim. And thank you to Kim for being the producer today. If we have daylight savings or something like that, I will leave a message in the community tab and tell you what's going on. But the time remains the same. It's always 9:30 a.m. on Wednesday, my time. So Melbourne, and this is Melbourne. So Melbourne time in Australia. Currently we're GMT plus 11. When we go to daylight savings, when daylight savings finishes for us, which will be soon, it'll be GMT plus 10. But I'll let people know. Here we go. And I'll see you again on the 3rd. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.